Hi guys, it's Dane here, back from the Easter weekend. Had a great weekend, just down at Moggs Creek with the family. Hope all you guys had an awesome Easter as well. Anyway, I'm back like I said. I was going to be just to do my third video on the Achilles tendon, and today I wanted to go over why I feel like some runners are more unbreakable than others in terms of their Achilles tendon. So, you know, if two athletes who did the same training, so they both did plyometric training, they both did hill training, they both did speed intervals, they both wore spikes, they both did a bit of barefoot stuff in the week, and you know, all things being the same, why did one runner get injured and the other didn't? I'll come up with 8 broad categories as to why I feel like this can be the case. Look, there's many more, but I feel like these broad categories go very well on video. If I saw someone in person, I could probably be a bit more specific, but I think if you looked at two athletes and you were trying to scratch your head why one person got injured and the other didn't, and they did the same training, one or two or three of these categories will probably apply. So let's go through them. So the first category I thought that was quite big to go over was training age and training history. So, you know, you've had one runner who'd done hill reps every week for the last 10 years, and then you've got another runner who it was their first week doing hill reps. The runner that had done hill reps every week for 10 years and had done 10 of them, he's going to be more able to tolerate and be fine with 10 hill reps. Whereas if you got the runner that had never done them before, starting off at 10 hill reps, then they're going to be probably pretty sore. So you're better off bearing training history in mind, and if it's the first time that they've ever done hill reps, then just start them off with a few and not as many. So definitely training history is a huge one. One good athlete to look at that is Steve Moneghetti. I mean, he started to break down a little bit more in recent times, but that's more because of age, which is another category I wanted to go over. Definitely you lose muscle strength with age, and you need to start doing something about it. Otherwise you can start getting a bit of Achilles tendon and calf trouble. Yeah, so what Mono did so well for a number of years was just be a consistent hard trainer for year after year, which meant that he had quite a long and productive career, because he was just so consistent, and he'd built layer upon layer of strength and robustness and durability. His body had just got so finely tuned and wired to running. Like, he'd just built this running machine. Like, it was just so used to running. That's what it did. So the body adapts. It adapts to the stress you put into it, and it gets used to it. And that's what Mono did so well. And that's what we've got to think about. We've got to build a really big base of training behind us, where it's not broken up with holidays, injuries, time out. I mean, you can have those times, but try to keep running. Try to just go for a few jogs. Keep the legs moving so that you don't lose the huge amounts of strength and consistency. So you want to build a huge yellow pages of strength and consistency that's hard to break, whereas if you've got just a thin magazine of training history behind you, it's easy to tear a thin magazine. Next one is age, like I mentioned quite briefly before with Mono. Every year after 30 you lose muscle mass, and as you lose muscle mass, you lose strength. So unless you're doing something about it, your body won't tolerate the same loads it used to tolerate. So you either have to reduce your training, or you have to increase your focus on strength training each week so that you can keep your training at the same level you want to keep it at. So I'd normally recommend that you go to the gym twice a week for half an hour and focus on strength exercises just to keep that muscle mass that you otherwise lose for just as you get older, so that you can still tolerate the loads you want to do. Next one from there is strength. It quite ties in quite nicely. It's what I keep talking about. It's what I talked about in the last video. If your strength's here and your load's here, you're going to be fine. But as soon as your load starts exceeding the strength of not just your Achilles tendon, but the rest of the muscles in your legs, then you're likely leading to an overuse injury. So got to keep the strength in our legs quite high so that we can tolerate the loads that we keep putting into them. And that's not just in the calf, but it goes with the muscles in the upper leg as well. If they're strong, then you're also shielding yourself from an Achilles injury because you've got a lot of other helpers in that leg absorbing the load. Next one is aerobic fitness. So often we see people training for events that are probably a bit further than they are ready for, and so they're pretty good, got good form till 5k, 10k, but then they start to get quite messy and sloppy, and their form really deteriorates in the last half of the half marathon or marathon, and they start hitting the ground quite loudly, and a lot of force is going through their tendons and their bones and their legs. And they're more at risk of getting an overuse injury. So definitely aerobic fitness and differences in aerobic fitness is another huge one that I feel sort of makes you at risk of an overuse injury as well. And then the next one is also past injury history. So if you have had 6 weeks, to 6 months off because of an injury, and you favoured the other leg over that time, or you can imagine there's a lot of deconditioning, and unless we rehabilitate really thoroughly, you often carry that weakness into your next training block, and as soon as things get hard again, you either get a reoccurrence of that old injury, or you get a knock-on injury because there's some strength deficits on that side that you haven't fully addressed. All right, and then the last 3 I wanted to quickly go over was sleep, good diet, and the last one was stress levels. So with good sleep, we should be aiming for about 8 hours a night, because while we sleep, we regenerate. And if we're not getting good sleep and it's quite interrupted, or that's enough to, and I know some people don't appreciate it enough, but that's enough to start to break down and get injuries that then the person next to you that's doing everything else very similarly, but having great sleep is tolerating. So that can be enough to be the difference. Food intake's a huge one. If we're not eating well with our fruit and veg, and carb and protein and fat intake, and eating substantial meals, and replenishing the energy that we use each day, and staying at a healthy body weight, and eating at appropriate times after we run, then look, I'm no dietitian, but I know that after seeing a few athletes that diet is certainly a huge one that can lead to recurring sort of overuse injuries as well. So that's another element that we have to be aware of. And then just stress levels, like whether it's family stress or work stress, we need a good balance of that, because with high stress, our ability to regenerate is compromised. So then it's putting you at risk of overuse injury as well. So they're my 8 little pointers. I hope you get something out of it. I'll be back in the next few days with another video. Anyway, hope you had a great Easter. I'll talk soon. Bye.